Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Moo, an online print and design company that helps you stand out from the crowd. Moo creates premium quality, customizable business cards and promotional materials. Visit moo.com/twist for more details and to get 20% off your next order. And by SnapTerms, online legal protection made simple. Visit snapterms.com and enter the code TWIST to receive 10% off. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services startup program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey everybody, it's a super important episode of This Week in Startups today because we have the co-founder and CEO of Tilt.com. What is Tilt.com? It is a crowdfunding platform. Now, why is that important? Startup companies are using crowdfunding to find out if there's a market for their product or service before they make it, before they raise capital. And so in this conversation with the founder and the CEO, we get into all the details about running your own crowdfunding campaign on your own site using their open platform, their software as a service, their sort of Kickstarter as software, versus doing it on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or rolling your own. And it's just a big overarching discussion about funding of startups, delivering on these crowdfunding campaigns, and all kinds of crazy examples from Snoop Dogg's to private security in Oakland to Soylent the Shake. A very important episode, crowdfunding, Tilt.com. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. We've been doing this for 500 episodes. And what do we do on this show? This Week in Startups should give you a clue to what the topic of this show is if you're a first-time listener. The show is about startup companies. And startup companies, at their essence, are about two things. One, some crazy founder having the guts, the gumption, to get off the bench and to try to take an idea, which ideas are everywhere, ideas mean nothing, but the founder, the entrepreneur, actually getting up off their ass and getting in the game and saying, I want this to exist in the world. That is the first part of a startup. The second part is they need capital. They need fuel. They need the raw materials to make that vision a reality, right? So there's one piece, which is courage. And there's a second piece, which is reality, money, resources. This stuff cannot be done without those things. And one of the most amazing things I've seen in my lifetime as an entrepreneur, and I've been doing this since the early 90s, going to be 44 years old this Friday. Well, no, at the taping, I will be 44. Anyway, point is, 25 years of doing this goddamn entrepreneur stuff. I can tell you, the funding landscape has changed radically. And there are two things, it's a day of twos. There's two things that have changed most dramatically. One is the angel investing landscape has changed. There's many more angels now, and you have a site like AngelList where people can contribute and get equity. However, those people are limited to what we call accredited investors in the world. What's an accredited investor? It's basically somebody who's got $3 or $4 million bucks. In other words, most of the world cannot buy equity in startups yet. It could change. There's some equity crowdfunding stuff going on with the SEC. That's a whole different ball of wax. Hasn't happened yet. It's on the books. Pretty soon, unaccredited investors will be able to invest for equity. We hope. Fingers crossed. But the next thing that's happened, and this has been so transformative for entrepreneurship, is the concept of crowdfunding. What is the concept of crowdfunding? The concept of crowdfunding is you as an individual can give money, a gift, if you will, to support a founder's vision to create something in the world, a donation. And sometimes that donation comes with a reward. The reward could be the product. The reward could be dinner, a T-shirt, or just the feeling that you've helped launch a project like that. Now, we hear about this all the time on This Week in Startups, right? Because we had Navdi on, we had Soylent on. We've had so many people who've crowdfunded their campaigns. And today, finally, James Bashara, like the Sahara.
Yeah, sure.
Like the Sahara. And James is the founder of a company called Tilt, formerly called CrowdTilt. But now it's just tilt.com. And you are, I would say, I don't know in terms of activity behind Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but it seems like a 3-horse race right now between those 3 platforms for an entrepreneur when they pick which platform to use for crowdfunding. So let me just ask you the question that most entrepreneurs ask you, I think, every day. Why should I use Tilt, not Kickstarter or Indiegogo? What's the difference?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. We get it quite often. And I think, just looking at the landscape, I think there's, those 3 are the 3 biggest, and we're lucky to be included in that. We've been around for about 2.5 years, and the 2 biggest differences between Tilt and really any other crowdfunding platform out there. First is on the consumer side. If you go to the App Store and you download our app, Tilt, or go to tilt.com, it's really focused on bite-size, smaller, more accessible crowdfunding campaigns. Think instead of a $40,000 documentary, it's $400 for your fantasy football league. It's $1,400 for a party bus on Friday night. It's $4,000 for a community fundraiser. Really kind of more accessible to everyman's crowdfunding. The other main difference, and this is where entrepreneurs come in, and it's been, at least over the last 6 months, it's been huge for us, has been these platform tools that we've started to release, these enterprise tools for people to build on top of our API and power really, really big crowdfunding campaigns. So actually both of the ones that you mentioned, Soylent and Navity, we powered both of those. And those are kind of what we see is on the horizon over the next few years, kind of the fat head of crowdfunding campaigns that are going to be really massive, $3, $4, $5, $10 million campaigns that we've powered all in the last 6 months. We think those are going to continue to evolve. I think.
Now, why would the counter argument I would have heard from like the Kickstarter Indiegogos is, hey, they've got a lot of people over there already. They have a community. Mm-hmm. And I think from the statistics I've seen, about 1/3 of the people who invest in those crowdfunding projects come from the Kickstarter community, and then 2/3 come from like the person's mailing list. I think those are pretty accurate.
Well, at least the studies we've seen, it's about 11%.
Come from the Kickstarter platform.
Right.
So they're actually, the argument would be they're not bringing that much.
Right. 89% comes from their own network, their own press that they get. And I think when you get to, if you're launching, and we're the biggest advocates for crowdfunding in any form or fashion. And when it's a $40,000 documentary, then Kickstarter is really phenomenal. It's the best platform for you to use. Something that we've seen, though, is when you're raising hopefully $3, $4, $5 million, and you're launching a company, not just launching a book or a documentary, but launching a company, you really want customizable things like retargeting ads. One of the biggest advances in e-commerce in the last 4 years has been retargeting ads, and you can't do that on any other platform because you can't drop in the snippet of JavaScript.
Got it. So when you're using Tilt, you have complete control over what the page looks like. And in fact, people who use it like Navity or whatever, you wouldn't know it's a Tilt campaign, would you, as a customer?
Not really. You'd see it down in the footer, or you'd see it through the checkout process. But if you go to navity.com or if you go to Tilt Open, that's our enterprise tool that allows you to customize everything. You could think of it kind of like the WordPress of crowdfunding. You can host it on your own domain, brand it however you want. You can customize you could modify the code base if you want to because it's open source.
Yeah.
You can own the entire user experience, add in subscription-based crowdfunding. You could plug in Coinbase and Bitcoin, and you can do some really crazy cool things, especially if you're selling a really big, expensive item. You really want to own just small things like the mailing list. You want to be able to,
because you don't own your own mailing list on Kickstarter, do you?
Right. So you with Pebble, I backed it 2.5 years ago. They have to send all of their updates still through Kickstarter.
So when you run a Kickstarter and you get 10,000 people to sign up for it or something, do you get their email addresses or no?
So it is actually, it's pretty fascinating how little you do get. And
you don't get the emails, right?
Right. No, you don't get.
It's kind of opaque. It's like a black box.
You're kind of stuck on that platform.
Right. So they do that for lock-in reasons,
right?
Obviously.
And it makes sense for their platform, and it's not too much of a trade-off if you are getting spillover from other campaigns. But if Lytro is a venture-backed company that launched their second camera on our tools, and I don't know if you saw it a few months ago. It was a really cool camera, $1,200 item. They really want to own things like
$1,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
They really want to own things like A/B testing the page just to know which marketing copy works best. They really want to own things like they could.
Well, how about owning the customer? I mean, that it sort of begins and ends there. Now, what about price? Because Kickstarter takes 10%?
It's between 8 to 10%.
Got it.
And ours
Indiegogo?
Indiegogo, it's between 4 and 9%.
Got it. And then Tilt?
And Tilt is 2.5%.
Got it. So you're not making any money off of that. Because that's is it 2.5% plus the fees?
Plus credit card processing.
Okay.
You can actually, since it's open source, you can just do it right out of the box for free.
Got it. So the 2.5% on top of credit card fees, and the other ones, the 8 to 10% from Kickstarter, that's on top of credit card fees, or does that include
No, it includes it.
That includes it.
Yeah.
So basically, it's half price. Your service.
Half price, and it's something that I think we introduced it half price. We just launched it in February, March this year, so a few months ago. And we introduced it really just wanting to see what the demand is for these enterprise tools.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, I was like, interesting.
Yeah, and it's so I think we're gonna. We're already investing more and more into it because it is growing so fast. But our main focus, really, 90% of our company resources is on Tilt.com and on the consumer side.
Right.
But these enterprise tools that have really kind of blown us away have shown us kind of the future of crowdfunding.
That's fascinating, I think, because there's clearly multiple markets here. There's people who don't want to do any customization, and Indiegogo or Kickstarter are good choices there, depending on if you want to do fill a partial campaign or a full one.
Right.
And then there's really there's the GoFundMe or something like that, and then you guys for, hey, I'm doing a party this weekend, we want to split the bill, or if we hit this amount, we'll have the party. If we don't, we don't.
Right.
But this enterprise one, that's a wide open field that nobody owns except for you, I think.
Yeah, I think we're just through SEO and through the tools out there, we are leading the pack in that front.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take a little break here, a little pause for the cause, and when we get back, I want you to tell me the state of the art in terms of if you are starting a company and you want to do crowdfunding, what is the best way to do this and price things? Because I've been seeing a lot of investment opportunities of companies that did crowdfunding campaigns, which you would think would make them attractive. Mm-hmm. And then when I look under the hood, I'm like, wait a second, you met your goal and you now need another $1 million to actually fulfill it. It seems like there's a lot of potential flameouts on Kickstarter and Indiegogo going on right now of companies that actually hit goal but can't deliver. So I want to get right into that huge issue on This Week in Startups. Hey, everybody, I'm thrilled that Moo.com is a sponsor of This Week in Startups. Why am I so thrilled? Because I've loved this product and used this product for many years. Back in Weblogs Inc. days when we were doing Engadget and Autoblog, everybody wanted cards. Right? Everybody wants to be able to go to CES or an event and give a card out. It's one of those things that makes employees feel proud. And as an owner of a business, you want people to feel proud. You want them to represent your company. Even the person who's the receptionist or cleaning the kitchen or whatever you think is the lowest person on the totem pole, they deserve to represent the company. They deserve to have a Moo card. And these Moo cards are so affordable and so easy to make with their online editor, Moo.com. And you know these cards because you've been at an event where somebody opened a cute little chiclet-sized box and they slid it open and pulled out this little thin card that was on beautiful paper stock and they handed it to you and you're like, oh, that's so impressive and I love your cute little card holder that you put in your pocket and you put in your bag and it doesn't crush the cards, right? Moo.com is just brilliant, simple, elegant business cards. Plus they do a bunch of other stuff that you need like stationery. But the business cards are super easy, and you can get them in a day or two, or even overnight, I think. They're so amazing with customer service. Go to moo.com/twist, moo.com/twist right now. Design your cards, and you're going to get 20% off, which is, I don't even want them to give you the 20% off because I kind of feel like it's too cheap already. This product is amazing. I use it. Everybody who uses it loves it. You've seen them before. And you can get full-size cards, too, if you don't want to be super hip and avant-garde and you want a regular full card, on bone white, classic paper. You can do that too. But go to moo.com/twist. Please go to moo.com/twist. Great paper, great aesthetic. You can do all this online. You have the online WYSIWYG kind of jam. And it's just a great product. I'm super, super stoked because me talking to you about moo.com is this is what I would tell you. If a friend came up to me at a dinner and said, hey, I need to get business cards. I like your business cards. I'd be like, yeah, go to moo.com. Boom. And you know what's interesting? We used to make them specific for events. So when we would go to, when Engadget would go to things like CES, we would make it and say, visit our site, ces.engadget.com, right? Or engadget.com/CES, whatever it was, just to sort of highlight the actual events coverage. So you could make these cards for specific events. You could put the event name on the back or the date of your party. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them, on an ad hoc basis. And I think that's super savvy. So anyway, moo.com, and everybody thank @Moo on your Twitter handle. Let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm Jason Calacanis, your host. You can follow me on Twitter @Jason. Yes, I'm a member of the First Name Club on Twitter. And no, sorry, Jason Statham, I am not selling it to you. He offered to be like my driver for like a month if I would give him the domain name. And I'm like, I really don't want to have Jason Statham driving me around San Francisco. It'd be cool. Maybe for a year. If Jason Statham wants, @Jason, if you drive me for one full year, I will give you the handle. That's it. That's it. You got to take a year off from movies and drive me around San Francisco. All right, my guest today is James
Bashara.
Bashara.
Yeah,
Bashara. And he is the CEO.
Think of sharing economy.
Bashara. So you changed your name to match the company.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Branding.
That's commitment, by the way.
Hash brown branding. Yep.
Absolutely. In related news, yes, Travis Kalanick is now Uber Travis. Uber Travis is his new name. So the company is Tilt, and you can follow them @Tilt on Twitter. And so let's talk about this issue of startup companies specifically using crowdfunding to start a company, or the second case, you have a company and you want to deploy it. It seems to me that you have people who are not actually founders of companies launching a campaign. They hit their goals, and then they are faced with the stark reality of having to actually deliver what they promised. I can tell you I've seen at least 10 companies in the last year that if they don't get additional funding from VCs or angels, they will not be able to deliver on their crowdfunding campaigns. And let's face it, many crowdfunding campaigns on Indiegogo and Kickstarter have been flameouts and problematic and really disappointing. So this is a critical, I think, perhaps the most critical Achilles heel to all of y'all's businesses.
There we go. Yeah.
Which is delivery of the actual product. So how concerned are you about that issue, and what do you think that issue really is?
Yeah, I think it's really fair question. That overarchingly, I'd say whatever platform you use for your crowdfunding, for your crowdfunding effort, we want it to be a really positive experience. In fact, like our kind of ethos is we really just don't want crowdfunding to get a bad name for things like this.
Do you feel that we're on the precipice of maybe it is? Because it feels like in the public, people
like it needs. I think the platforms themselves. I think there's just a vacuum of no one really taking the helm of this and trying to be ahead of this problem. I think from a perspective, just as a company, as a 50-person company at Tilt, we take it very seriously, and I think about it quite often that we are in the absolute nascency of crowdfunding.
Right.
If you look at
the first inning.
It is the first inning. I mean, even though it's been around for about 4 or 5 years, it's kind of with weblogs. I actually compare crowdfunding to where blogging was 10, 12 years ago.
Sure.
And it's something that's a lot of hand waving. People are talking about it. People are, especially the Jobs Act stuff. People are definitely clamoring about it as a mechanism of capital, but we're still, out of 2 billion people connected online, there's about 9 million people that have crowdfunded on all the major platforms combined. Us, Indiegogo, Kickstarter combined. Only 9 million people. Only 400,000 people have started crowdfunding campaigns before. So out of 2 billion connected individuals on the web today, 400,000 people have started crowdfunding campaigns.
To get to 1% would be 20 million. So you have basically 50 basis points, 40 basis points.
It is it's in its nascency. I think we're still figuring out the solutions to some of these problems. And definitely people are unexpectedly going above and beyond what they thought and struggling to deliver. I think the two ways to address that would be, one, I'd say it's okay if you fail. If you realize that you got kind of into something you're in too deep, then the quicker you realize that, the better for everyone involved. So your backers, the more that the platforms can do to help, then obviously the better everyone is.
So what should a person do if they have to pull the ripcord?
Yeah. In
your mind, what would the ideal scenario be if I have raised, let's say, $1 million and I've deployed 300,000 of it, building, and I realize I can't deliver this? What should that person who did the crowdfunding campaign do? Because let's face it, when entrepreneurs hit a bump in the road, they become typically insular. they hide, they panic, and they don't disclose information, and they tend to get paralysis in my experience. So what should that entrepreneur, founder do, or Kickstarter, or crowdfunding person do if they've spent 30 cents on the dollar of the money and now they realize there's no way this is going to get delivered? What do they do?
I think it's the same for, being a young founder myself. It's the same advice that we got early on. It's just approach each problem like a human.
Yeah.
And know that the other people on the other side of the problem are humans too, and not to get too existential, but back to tactical answer. If you pay $100 for an item that can't be delivered, and you get $70 back. I'd say that's not too bad, and
it's a better solution than
waiting 18 months and never getting a dime back, and feeling once bitten twice shy about crowdfunding.
Has that happened before? Have people returned the money? And how often has it happened? Can you think of instances on Kickstarter?
No, not on our platform. I can say everyone's delivered on our platform.
I wonder if has anybody returned money on the other platforms that you know of? You must know the high-profile cases. What are the high-profile cases here?
I can't recall any offhand that have been really high-profile. I've seen a couple hundred, $200,000 campaigns that have returned money, but I think the most high-profile campaigns honestly figure out a way to deliver on it. And
so that pressure,
right? It's what going through Y Combinator where Paul.
You went through Y Combinator? Oh, when did you do that?
2012. So 2 years ago.
Great.
Paul Graham's his observation of startup founders, I think, applies to crowdfunders as well. Is that there's a lot of peer pressure to deliver, and that often that's more impactful than these aspirations of grandeur. It's just you want to make sure you deliver on your promises to your family and friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you raise friends and family money, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big piece of it. What have the other platforms done, and what have you done specifically though to deal with this issue? So do you review campaigns? Do you have insurance against things not happening? Do you hold the money for people? What are the mechanics today? Because I know in the beginning it was very freewheeling, and I think Kickstarter and Indiegogo would just send you all the money.
Yep.
But now when things get big, don't they tranche it a little bit and give you money in tranches?
Yeah, so first off, can I say, Jason, I've been watching your show since I was in South Africa.
Wow.
And,
clearly you're a man of taste.
Yes, of course. You and Leo watched y'all's stuff while I was building out my first startup in Cape Town. Yeah. It was another crowdfunding platform. So I've been building. My head's been in this space for about 6 years now, and I started watching the show back in 2009, 2010. So I wanted to give you that recognition.
Thank you.
It's kind of surreal.
It's quite surreal being here.
It is. It's
I
very
do
cool.
get that now. In year 5, people are like, we had Ryan from Product Hunt on, who was a super fan and was on the back channel and everything.
Ryan's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jeff from Better was also a super fan on the back channel, and they're like, they both were on the programs now with these incredible products, Better and Product Hunt, that are like being talked about incredibly. They're like, I went from a fan to being on the show. It's incredible.
Right. It is it's very cool. So
it's sort of becoming an institution in a way. I tell people it's the victory lap. Like getting on the show is like your victory lap.
Well, we're definitely in our early innings, so definitely not a victory lap for us, but it is very cool as a
All right,
founder.
so back to the tough question, which is what specifically have the other platforms done? What have you done? And what do you think will become the standard in a way for mitigating against the flameouts and managing expectation, which seems like a lot of it to me, because I always tell people, if you do a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo or any crowdfunding, a Tilt, you're backing somebody's dream. You should expect that it could go to zero, it could go to hero.
Yeah, I think the one I'd say, so two answers to that, front end and back end. On the front end, there's a lot more advanced things you can do that we advise companies to do, like just set up Google AdWords for a certain price. And do 3 different prices and see what the elasticity around those prices are so you can price correctly. That is such an easy A/B testing way of testing an item price that's or set up a Facebook ads for it to where you can get this incredibly foundational information before you launch your campaign.
So if I was going to launch, let's say, a new mug that was like battery power or solar powered, and it would keep the mug warm or something, right? So I'm like, cup should be warm, whatever, a Ralph Cramden kind of idea, Kenneth Corey Apple. And you put it, and you say, solar mug keeps your coffee warm for 1 hour.
Yep.
$29.95, $39.95, $49.95, $99. And then what? You see if people click on it?
Yeah.
And the click would be a proxy on the ad for interest at that
and
level.
then it's you set up the page where it's like enter your email address to know when this is launching. But you're able to
that's two different signals. One is did they click on the price in the ad, and then two, did they put their email in to get more information? So you can look at both of those.
Right, and I think that honestly speaks to at least our customer base. So on Tilt.com and on the if you download the app, by the way, you'll probably not know what we're talking about on the enterprise side of things because you'll literally see.
Oh, let's put the app on here.
Fraternity.
Oh, hey, you know what? We'll do that when we get back from commercial break. Hey, let's take a quick break and we'll look at the app when we get back. Here's the thing. Listen to me. If you don't have a terms of service, you're going to get, and a privacy policy, especially in this day and age, you are going to get hit up by all these ambulance-chasing law firms. And I don't mean to scare you, but the fact is, if you raise a little bit of money, you're now a target. You've got to have the terms of service. You've got to have your privacy policy all buttoned up. Now, this can cost a lot of money. That's why you want to try SnapTerms. SnapTerms.com is a great way to get started in having a simple, affordable, fast terms of service up and running. We use it thisweekinstartups.com/legal, thisweekinstartups.com/legal, and you can see our SnapTerms. And it starts at only $299. And they can customize it if you're commerce, if you're, I don't know, social network, whatever. They can take the terms of service and just plug and play a little different parts of it. In other words, you're going to get this done today, quickly, for just a quick hit on your credit card of like $2.99 or a little bit more, and you get 10% off if you use the promo code TWiST. They can even do custom solutions if you have something more complex. Go to snapterms.com and avoid costly litigation. Have a proper terms of service and a proper privacy policy. This is serious stuff. You want to get it done, and you want to get it done early and make it clean and tight. Go ahead and try snapterms.com. Use the promo code TWiST and follow and thank at SnapTerms on the Twitter. Okay, let's get back to this amazing program. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. When we left, we were talking about, the app for Tilt.com, but also what are the best practices? So number one, upfront, testing your product and making sure you have the right price. But what is the responsibility of Tilt, I guess, if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
And how do you give the money? Because I think that's the key question. Like, if somebody raises $1 million, is it your place to then tranche the money out or to have any culpability in if it doesn't work out, because you're just a platform, right? You're software. So I think how do you feel about that?
So I'd say all options need to be on the table as we watch this space evolve. But I'd say it needs to come from the platform protecting customers first and foremost.
So you think it is your responsibility?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think it is, and this is in contrast to. I won't name names of other platforms, but it is.
No. Indiegogo was on the program, and they're like, "We're a platform. If you use it."
Yeah, I don't buy that. Yeah,
they were very clear about it on this program that, hey, you use the platform and everybody understands the rules. Like,
I've heard that it's like use your internet street smarts, and as a customer, make sure I think that sidesteps a really important role the platform has and can have in extending and the evolution of crowdfunding and making it go beyond just 400,000 people doing it to 100 million people doing it. So I'd say all options need to be on the table for the platform to be able to protect the customers, not necessarily bend over backwards to protect the project creators. Those are an incredibly important part of the ecosystem, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is customers like you and me browsing through a site or seeing a news article about a cool object and feeling like, hey, that product will hit the market or I'll be semi-protected in some form or fashion.
So does that mean you vet the people, like
we do,
criminal background checks? What?
Yeah. Oh man, we vet them like setting up a merchant ID on Stripe, and we're built on top of Stripe and Balance Payments. Like setting up a merchant ID on Stripe or Balanced or Braintree, we do the same vetting.
So what is that vetting? You just there's some third party thing that makes sure I'm not a felon with a criminal record.
Yes, it's a lot of kind of. A lot of tactical just boxes being checked of identity. We're starting to.
This is a real person.
Right. This is a real person. Just kind
this is their social security number. This is their address.
Exactly. And then there's some unique things that I can't really disclose everything we do on the back end beyond that, but it is some unique things that we've done just because we've had to do it for Tilt.com for you to be able to collect $1,500 or $1,000 from friends and have it deposited in your bank account the next day.
Yeah.
We've had to do a good bit of heavy lifting for the algorithmic and manual fraud prevention on that.
Because
we
somebody
apply.
could, it's interesting, somebody could, like these Russian hackers or whatever.
We actually had to shut down a campaign that I think Tasha's in the other room. She knows the exact. They might have been from Montenegro, I think, but they were saying they're from California, and certain inconsistencies were and man, they were at $300,000 in the first few days. So it was going to be a massive crowdfunding campaign, and we had to shut it down. This was about a month ago. We had to shut it down, and I think there are other
when it gets
platforms
to that
where,
number, when it gets to that level. There is a waiting period. You can't get the money like in 24 hours. You got to wait 30 days or 60 days.
14 for us, yeah.
Only 14. But if it's only 14 days, do you miss the opportunity for the person who's, let's say, a credit card was stolen and used? How soon before that person like reviews their credit card? Like, I thought that, a lot of like when it gets to a certain level, like making people wait 30 days or 45 days, this way you get the billing cycle for the credit card is like sort of the best practice.
At that point in time, it is really up to Stripe or Balance, whoever's the actual. We leave it up to the credit card processor.
Got it.
And themselves, much like Kickstarter would do with Amazon payments. But I'd say the fraud. It gets a lot of buzz within crowdfunding, but it is, I just wanted to all the viewers out there, it is a significant, it's crazily small amount of
sub
campaigns.
Single digit, like under 1%.
Insignificant. Yeah, under 0.1%.
Got
it is so.
It's not like a PayPal level problem where it could take down crowdfunding, like because PayPal was at the point where like, hey, we're getting to a level that's not sustainable.
Right, and I think with and that's just been an evolution of people talk about businesses like Airbnb wouldn't be possible without something like Facebook. I think crowdfunding wouldn't be possible without a connected, identity-driven web because you're able to look up these individuals. You can find out more in 4 hours of us browsing an individual's background than we ever could with meeting with them for 5 weeks 10 years ago.
It's funny you say that. Like a lot of times when I meet with people for angel investing, it's just not as effective to just talk to them about their reputation as it is to talk to 3 people who worked with them or invested in them previously. Right?
Yep.
That's really the best way to do it. And so,
but I do want to also give Lisa a plug to there's a company here in the Bay Area called Spark Art that Spark Art. And it is kind of a whole creative outlet that is now putting together these crowdfunding campaigns. So back to kind of just the issue of inadequately estimating the demand of your product or inadequately pricing your product.
Here they are. We're a digital agency in Oakland, California. We design beautiful interfaces, experiences, and products. And actually, this is the guy working on, I met this doctor, the Immunity Project. HIV vaccine. Hey, Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, we definitely have to get the Immunity Project on.
Also powered by Tilt, actually.
Oh, was it powered by Tilt?
They
How
did
much
a crowdfunding
did they raise,
campaign.
do you know?
About $480,000. It's actually one of the biggest medical crowdfunding campaigns of all time. It's a really cool group.
And so what these guys do, Spark Art, is they're like an agency to make your crowdfunding.
Right. So
these have popped up, right?
Yeah, these have popped up, and this is just a good one that we've seen that just have used our platform, and they're the agency behind Immunity Project.
Got it.
So it was a medical initiative, and then Spark Art came in and said, "Hey, let's help you market this so that as many people as possible can find out."
What does it cost to throw a good campaign these days? Like,
well,
not
what
by
is
them, but
what's the definition of a good campaign
well,
right now?
Let's take NAVD or
NAVD,
like the one
which
we
has
just looked
done,
at, Immunity Project or Soylent. What do you think it takes to do a crowdfunding campaign at what I would call the top 10%? That's the high level.
Yeah. So kind of like the fat head of crowdfunding campaigns. I'd say you'd approach it like launching a company. You know, it's not launching a product that's just or a project, an amateur project that you've been building in your garage. You approach it like this is going to be the product that's going to launch our company. So I think you should act accordingly. SparkArt or these firms, another one. Awareness.io is another one that's that we've seen that's done really good work. They help you with the production of the video. They help you with the pricing. They actually do a lot of work up front for you in your campaign. Much like if you were launching, if you're launching your company in Silicon Valley right now, you'd consult with a PR firm just to get a sense.
So $50 to $100,000, you think, to launch a campaign?
Yeah, I would say. Yep, $50 to $100,000.
That's what I hear from
you
people.
can see some videos can cost as much as I know. Coin did their video with Sandwich and Sandwich videos. Adam at Sandwich, who we were talking about a few minutes ago. Those videos can be $50,000 by themselves.
Wow. That's not insignificant.
It's not insignificant, but it can like Navdi.
They can go viral.
Right, Navdi, I think sold.
And it's always got the same guy in it, the same dude.
Yeah, Adam. That's his
Adam.
name. Yeah, he's a hilarious. He's almost become the face of crowdfunding. But if you look at Coin or Navdi did I think $1 million in sales in 3 days. That doesn't happen on accident. I think it takes a smart, savvy team that realizes this is our launch to the world. Let's make it.
Yeah, here, let me just play this Navdi thing for a second so people can get an idea of this. This guy's like an actor.
Even in the car, you have this compulsion to treat it the same way. But you can't, because when you do, bad things happen. Oh, mother. You can mount your phone on the dash for navigation, sure. But is that any safer? No, it's not. It's bad. You need your eyes in front of you. You need Navdi. Navdi is a portable device you put on your dashboard with every mobile app you need to keep your eyes on the road ahead. It's a heads-up display.
So apparently he's doing well because he's got a Bentley. But you have to make like a...
I think that was a Ford Focus with a Bentley logo on it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
That's hysterical. So that's like even a little embedded joke.
Right. He's a really funny dude. But just doing that video, you've got to take your effort pretty I mean, you're looking at the fat head of crowdfunding that I think is just now starting in the last 11, 12 months, and I think is going to be a big part of the future of crowdfunding is these really, I mean, that object right there, the amount of work that had to go into just that product just to get a prototype of something that cool. That's like Google Glass for your windshield. You don't even approach a product like that lightly. So you shouldn't approach the crowdfunding campaign and the pre-sales lightly.
Awesome. Okay, so let me see your app. You got a new app out now?
Yeah.
How does this work, and what's the point here?
It is. It's been out for say about 2 months, but this shows just the consumer product. So this is the very bite-sized side of crowdfunding. The enterprise things we started launching about 7-8 months ago, but this has been the core of everything that we've done in the last 2 years,
What
which
is cochlear implant funding for little Alice?
It is literally a $1,000 campaign. We've got, this is a holodazzle dinner. So 44 people sold for a dinner. Let's see. 33 people pitching in.
What the hell's a holodazzle?
I don't know. But
what's a holidays?
Honey badgers get ready for another evening. So this is just a group of friends.
So somebody made their dinner public. So like I can basically crash this.
So you could, yeah. I think it's surprising how often these.
I'm gonna call my guy. I'm gonna text Bill Murray right now, and we're gonna go crash that dinner.
You should. It would be that would be awesome.
Well, Bill and I do that sometimes.
But so that is then Tilt should be an app you're opening up pretty often. So this is a party bus of 8 people pitching in for the description is 2 words: party bus.
Party bus.
It doesn't require a 5-minute video, 8 levels of rewards, 7 paragraphs.
Yeah.
This is crowdfunding on the mobile phone.
You don't need to do a sandwich video for this.
Right. In fact,
for the party bus.
Right, for the party bus. That is
PAWTY party bus.
This might be in Brooklyn.
It might be
home digs.
Exactly.
But think about it like kind of what I said about crowdfunding being where blogging was 10, 12 years ago. The first 5 years of crowdfunding is dominated by these early adopters, amateurs, independents that are doing things on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and those things I think are going to be awesome for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, sure.
But
making a movie.
I think the next 5 years, we're going to see crowdfunding dominated by a Twitter-like bite-sized accessible version that takes the mechanics of crowdfunding but brings it down into a smaller group type of environment where you're using a tilting aspect where you authorize credit cards but don't charge them until you hit an objective
let's say
like $200.
I was just like, you know what? A lot of people want to have This Week in Startups at their university or something.
Perfect objective.
I can say, like, listen, if you want us to come to the university, it's going to cost like $10,000 for me to send the producers and everybody in the cameras and the equipment and set it up and videotape it. So any college that wants to do a crowd tilt right now could do. Crowd tilt. Tilt.
Yep.
They could just pull up a tilt, do it. When they raise $10,000, we'll do it.
Yep. That is exactly it.
So you could do it right now. Go ahead, do it. Let me see.
Think of
this is you saying if we raise $5,000, Jason will come to the Tilt office and do a Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is the
Jason at the office.
All right.
We go.
So Jason to let's go to let's go to Alabama.
Okay. I'm afraid of the South. That's gonna just charge. They got to hit like $20,000.
I think, but they could use a little more.
Wait, hold on. Where do I want to go? Like, Jason,
where do you want to go?
Let's go. Producer Jackie.
Let's go to NYU.
Let's ask them. Producer Jackie or Jacob, where do you want to go? Alaska? University
All
of
right.
Michigan. No. I think Alaska's a good call. Let's go.
Okay.
I think Alaska's. I've never been to Alaska. I've been to Hawaii. No.
All right,
Alaska.
Jason to Alaska.
Perfect.
And each person's got to pay, let's say, at least, let's say $30.
$30. Perfect.
And you can pitch in. What's great is if you really want Jason to come, you can pitch in
To
1,000.
Alaska.
Yep.
I love it.
Let's say it
Jesus
needs
Christ, man.
10,000 minimum for it to happen, and
All right. So there we go.
boom. You literally set up a crowdfunding campaign in less time it takes to write
That's sick,
a tweet.
dude. I think that's, because you have to wait for approval on all the other platforms, right?
Yep.
Like you're just like waiting and waiting and waiting.
Let's add a.
Oh, there you go. Look at this. He can spell my name. You really, truly are a super fan. You know my hometown. You got a favorite episode, by the way,
No.
James?
My favorite episode might be actually what was cool was you know what, we're gonna go with just this image which
No,
popped
don't
up.
do that. Don't do that.
Um,
Oh, God.
Okay, well.
Do Calacanis. Here we go.
Right.
Jason Calacanis. There it is. 2 N's.
Oh, come
It's still going
on.
to come out. Somebody's got it. Just
It is
you'll get there.
autocorrect.
You'll get there. CALICANIS. 2 N's.
So these are
You still
the
got
only
2 N's.
problems you'll really run into.
You did 2 N's. Yeah, see, what's happening is you did your API. You're actually respecting copyright by doing a Creative Commons search, and that's why it's not coming out.
Okay, well then there we go. So we're gonna choose.
Yeah, just pick that Indian dude right there.
This is a
that
pretty
could be
good-
me, right?
yeah,
That's
this
me
is
and my vet. That's
bring
me in
Jason-
Alaska in the outback for 6 months.
Exactly. So let's
Here we
write
go,
a
boom.
description.
Yada yada. Yeah, whatever.
Because it will
Rock.
be awesome.
Yeah, it's true. It would be pretty awesome.
And then we just start sharing it.
Love it.
We'll make it private just
Okay.
in case anyone.
Starts
thinks
putting
they
money
can
in,
run with it.
and that's it. And then you start inviting people to come, and you've got it. Wow. And so, how long has that product been in market? It's sort of like what I'll call like a micro tilt or micro crowdfunding. Yeah, micro crowdfunding.
About 2 months.
Wow.
So
how many people have used it? Is it like catching on, or
we don't? Yeah. So we don't release user
hundreds of
numbers.
people, thousands?
Hundreds of thousands. So
Wait, hundreds of thousands?
well, we've been Tilt.com has been around for a while. So when we released the app, it was really easy to get people to switch
Got
over
it.
to.
So really,
to the app. Yeah,
hundreds
so,
of thousands of campaigns in 4 months?
Yeah, Natasha's going to hate me because we really don't release numbers.
Well, you could just give like a general ballpark. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it, Natasha.
so
You're the CEO. Okay, let me give you some advice. Don't you worry about the PR people. You're the CEO.
That's
you
true.
decide.
That's true. Yeah, you.
It's hundreds of thousands of people. Wow.
Yes.
That's
So
crazy.
it's been
Huge. Take credit.
on the app. It's been. We've been growing about 53% month over month on college campuses.
Wow.
So and that is our biggest demographic is college
See, it makes
campuses.
sense because people who are on college campuses, like, there's always, or anytime you're trying to get an ad hoc group together, there's always this like, how much is it going to cost? And then somebody's got to like call everybody or SMS anybody or whatever. It sort of just makes it very simple because if you put the money up, then you're definitely interested. If you don't put the money up, then you're a maybe or not interested, right? And it really just it's a forcing function.
And it allows you to, if you think about it, and our view on it is, I'll give you, the high level view of why we started building this, and it goes back to our Y Combinator application was trying to imagine 10 years down the road. We think 1 billion people will be crowdfunding. I've been building crowdfunding software for the last 6 years. I think it's going to be one of the decade-defining phenomena.
So you think it'd be like 20% of people will do one? Yeah, I mean, if you include these micro crowdfunding, it's
participate in one. If you go to the developing world, it's a Tuesday for you to pitch in for 15 people for a medical operation for a family member, 25 people pitching in for the local school to be able to have
I love that vision.
supplies.
I think it's great.
100 people.
Is there a limit to this, like in terms of how much money can be spent on it? Because you do have like a fraud issue here, like it's a quick turnaround?
No, there's no limit to it. In fact, what we see is the first campaign, and it just going back to the user numbers. I want to be clear. That is over the life of Tilt.
Okay,
It has not been in the last 2 months. Just wanted to. One of the coolest things about the platform is that, and this is actually my favorite stat, is the first time you use it, the average size of the campaign is $480. The second time, $720. The third time, $2,100. The third time you use Tilt, it is 6 times bigger than the first time.
Wow.
So you start to use it for these bite-sized, really small, maybe it's a birthday gift for maybe Jackie coming up. The office pitches in for Jackie's birthday gift. And then by the third time you use it, you're like, shit, I want to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
And for $10,000, let's make it happen.
So the Soylent, which we had at the launch festival last year, which, by the way, I probably, you don't want to drink plain Soylent, but if you put Kahlua in it, It's quite nice, actually. I don't know if you saw the video, but we had them
have
on
not.
stage, and I had them, and I had Hampton Creek with their mayonnaise and their cookie dough. Hampton Creek, amazing. Soylent plain, it doesn't taste like much.
Yeah.
Like they specifically made it with no taste. So you're going to want to put a little Kahlua.
Maybe eggnog for the
Or
holidays.
eggnog and Kahlua or Bailey's or something. But they sold $3 million in Soylent on your platform.
Yep. It's
$3 million.
Yeah, on the enterprise side of things, the average
you made $75,000 off of that. That's not a bad business for you guys.
No, it's not. It's we're perfectly aligned with wanting the projects to do as well as possible. And
it's
giving
reasonable
as much
for them. They don't have to. It would cost them what, like $250,000 to $500,000 to build out what you built. Oh.
And imagine all that you'd miss out on if you make a few mistakes because you feel like let's be penny wise pound foolish and try to build it ourselves, and then the conversion is hurt because of mobile phone conversion or just mobile optimization isn't there. You might end up missing out on 40% of the payments because you aren't using a platform that is really built for hundreds of thousands of transactions to go through on a monthly basis. So it's something that
Right, so here's one that I was super interested in that I want you to talk about, which was the security patrol for Lower Rockridge Northwest.
Yeah.
Now, for people who don't know about this, what happened here?
This is back on a tilt in the consumer side of things. This is probably one of my favorite campaigns of all time.
I love this one too.
This actually comes, and this kind of kicked up some dust in Financial Times was writing about it, and Salon and a bunch of others are writing about this campaign. But what's so fascinating about this is the organizer comes in for, I believe it was a kickball campaign. So he used Tilt for a seemingly trivial use case of just collecting money for a kickball campaign. And then 2 weeks later, if I've got the details right, 2 weeks later he comes back and uses the exact same platform that he might have only heard about for the first time 2 weeks prior, comes back and he uses it for something as consequential as the safety of his neighborhood. And he collected $82, I think, from 100 households in 24 hours.
Wow.
And that's not even the best part. The best part is I joined the campaign because it looked so cool. They were using the,
it's worth bringing up here, by the way. Pull it up on the screen, guys.
It was so cool that I just pitched in for it, didn't think too much of it. And then a few months later, he sends out a newsletter to everyone that pitched in, saying, the effects of the private patrols. I think Oakland has become one of the burglary mugging capitals of the U.S. I didn't know that until I saw this campaign. Anyway, I pitch in. 4 or 5 months later, he sends out a newsletter to everyone. A month into the patrols, they had cut crime by 46%. In 24 hours, he collects $82 from 100 households,
wow.
and that directly results in cutting crime by half in their neighborhood.
That is amazing. And you look here, he's like VMA Security Group, the same security firm as used by the Rockridge Merchants Association, will patrol 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for a trial period between this and this, with an uniformed guard in a highly visible cop car. So that's really great. People people did say oh my God, this is the privatization of security. The rich people are going to on the Hill have this. But hey, listen, people are allowed to spend their money on what they want to spend on it. If people want to have extra security, it's their right. It doesn't, take away from anybody else's.
I think it's actually the opposite. People have had, in gated communities, you've had private patrols in the really rich neighborhoods in America for the last 50 years. But now you actually allow just a neighborhood of 8 blocks, and this is in Oakland. This is not Beverly Hills, and they're just pulling money for. A private patrol, one car that cuts crime in half. That is, and what the best part about that campaign was the organizer, the first sentence just gets, it pulls the heartstring. It says, "Enough is enough."
Yeah.
I
did read that, and I was like, wow, this guy's...
That is, someone turning.
And that's what people can do on their phones. They'll be like, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. We've had this campus problem, campus rape is a huge thing, or campus security. So somebody on campus could be like, this is enough.
We've had sororities pull their money for private security a lot in the last few months. I've seen at least 4 or 5 campaigns for parking lots and things like that. It's just one of those.
Here's an active one that's pretty cool. You have this Pour les Femmes, for the women. for the
right.
ladies, I
Nice.
think. Pour les femmes. Look at that, huh?
So cultured.
I think right
Jason.
now, like my horrible 2 years of French in Severn High School has paid off. But tell me about this one, because this is kind of cool too.
So this launched maybe a day or two ago, and this is Robin Wright, the actress from
Robin Wright,
House
Penn.
of Cards.
She's
House
famous.
of Cards, and,
super famous.
And she launched a pajama line, and it was a very similar story. They wanted to launch a business, and it's at $60K in about 2 or 3 days, which is really cool. And but they wanted to own the experience. They wanted to own the customers. I mean, they're their customers, and for the most part, they really felt like they were bringing the audience. I think she has. I think they brought just in Twitter followers, a lot of visitors to the site themselves. So they didn't want to pay 5-10% to someone else to be able to do that and be beholden to that other platform.
Yeah, see, I think that's I think it's like it's pretty clear. Like, this is the problem I have with YouTube as a platform. I told the guys at YouTube and gals, like, listen, if you want me to invest my time in your platform, I need to be able to collect the emails.
Right.
And I want to have a direct relationship, not just subscribers, because you keep changing the rules of how I can reach the subscribers.
Right.
So my subscriber account means nothing. I want the emails. I would rather have 10% of those. And I went on a little jihad publicly about it, and I was like, this is BS. And then I finally was like, you know what, enough. I'm going to use Wistia.
Yeah.
Because Wistia allows me to put a little thing in there to collect the emails.
Yep.
And I think that really this is why software as a service is so powerful, and what your business is doing so powerful. It's why you got Andreessen Horowitz and Sean Parker and all these famous people to invest is at a certain point, you get tired of being the platform's, as Fred Wilson would say, bitch. Fred Wilson wrote this piece, be your own bitch. Do not be beholden to the platform. So excuse the sexist language, but I think we all know what he means, by the term. And it's a famous post. I need to tell you how to search for it, but be your own bitch is the name of the blog post. But you cannot just be beholden to these other platforms. At a certain point, you got to say, hey, this is my business. I need those emails. And the reason those other businesses, those other platforms feel they can abuse the customers is because they let themselves be abused. I consider it abuse that I can't own my customers. I get really upset about it. And that's why I spend all my time trying to convert people to email, trying to convert people. And engaging platforms like Tilt that allow you to own the relationship. I think it's so critical.
Two other really big points on that is the SEO. For these really big crowdfunding campaigns, the SEO will remain on that other platform for 8, 9, 10 months instead of them gathering up that SEO. And the other, just a major reason that's a problem just in the numbers was, Soylent did about $750,000 in their first 30 days. But because they kept the SEO and with our enterprise product, Tilt Open is the enterprise product to go check out. They were able to leave it up for another 9 months and collect the additional $2.3 million. They raised 3 times as much in the days after their 30-day crowdfunding campaign, just because the enterprise product allows you to leave your page up, for as long as you want. That Navdi is the same thing. They're collecting. They're still doing a lot of orders every single day, and it just goes back to if you are a just an independent, just getting started, YouTube is perfect. If you've been doing this for 5 years and this is your business, then you might have just a different lens, and both products serve a really needed purpose, but they have 2 different purposes to serve.
Here's a great one. Snoop Dogg is on the platform.
Yes.
The D-O-double-G, and he is saying tilt for the D-O-double-G. Snoop Dogg, we go into college campuses that tilt the most, and it explains how you can use Tilt, which is great.
Yes.
And the scoring system here.
Right.
So this is how you became big on campuses, huh?
Well, this is pretty cool. It's kind of self-reinforcing. So Snoop began using Tilt maybe about 8 or 9 weeks ago this summer. He started using Tilt for things from a community fundraiser to he launched, I think he's about to launch some slippers. He launched a T-shirt. He launched a candle on Tilt. It's literally bite-sized crowdfunding. You can throw up one product and just send it to your community and start tilting it. And he loved it so much that he wanted to see, can he start to, his management team asked, can we start to use it for these experiences and events around college campus? I think he has.
Love it.
I don't want to reveal too much of it, but he's got an album coming out soon. And so he wanted to do this thing where he would go to the campus that uses Tilt the most.
Cool.
And you can basically
Is he a shareholder? How'd you get him to do all this?
It's through, we met at this event. No, he's not an investor. and we met at this event, and he was just really interested. And he literally said,
get his money,
goals,
man. Make him an investor. Sell him some of your shares.
He's a smart dude, and he was saying the three things he cares about in the next few years is community, commerce, and
marijuana.
Yeah, but marijuana, of course, but community, commerce, and consumer tech. And so it's like, that's funny because our consumer app is the best way for you to tap into your community to sell these commercial products.
Is sort of tangentially related to this sort of T-shirt phenomenon, and they're a YC company. What do you think of what they're doing and sort of getting everybody, because it's crowdfunding but for a T-shirt?
Yeah, it's a really cool verticalized T-shirt approach. It's a great product. Yeah.
And is that, you think that's going to happen on your platform a bunch, or would you just do a partnership with them, or outsource the T-shirts, or leave it?
I think
what's there?
It's not an area we go after specifically, but it becomes just a simple product to use for selling anything to your community. So a fraternity or sorority that's already using it for the tailgate on Saturday or the late night party on Friday night, just naturally I think realizes they could use it for their fraternity or sorority T-shirts. But no, it's not really an area we go after specifically.
And here's what I'm going to. I just I did like a little search of the site randomly, because you can't get to all these campaigns. They're all
a lot are private. I'd say significant. Yeah. So it is the only crowdfunding, because it's these bite-sized things.
Right.
It is a significant portion of the campaigns are just for you and 15 friends.
Right. But here's the one I'm going to crash. This is for Section K. Is renting out the best Korean barbecue venue in all of Boston. Nice. I missed it. It was November 10th. But it's funny. It's like they basically, this is a bunch of HBS kids. So I'm going to just bookmark this. The next time I'm in Boston, I'm going to crash one of these. And I'm just going to literally buy a ticket.
It makes for an interesting, we've had brands. Oh, you can see I have my to-do list written on my hand right there.
Yeah.
Old school.
That's entrepreneurship.
It's the only method that works for me.
There's this thing called Trello.
No, I know, and if I add it,
it works on your iPhone.
Yeah, it's like it's a black hole. If I add
full disclosure, I am a minor investor in Trello. I highly recommend it.
We use Trello. It's a great product. What's interesting about brands, and they've approached us. Some very it's taken us by surprise how quickly, how much they have dug the fact that they can see what's happening with these groups in the future, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. We're building this platform that has this information of these groups. So you might want to crash it, or maybe Budweiser wants to sponsor it. And that's going to be an interesting avenue over the next few years of these brands that have wanted to. Mountain Dew is coming out with a drink, and they want it to be on all these college parties across the country.
It is like the great marketing thing, right? Doing crowdfunding campaigns, because now every time, like I met with Neil Young about the Pono a couple of years ago. And they were looking for, a CEO. They were looking for money. They, had it was in the early stages. And so I was hanging out with Neil. So hold on, let me just pick up this name I dropped. So I was hanging out with Neil. I was like, Neil, this was like a Kickstarter, Indiegogo. It was a crowdfunding campaign. Like, you're Neil Young. Like, this is how people are going to find out about it. Like, it's marketing. It's like, he was like, maybe you think. And he's like, and he wanted it to be like a high-end thing. And I was like, I think that the high-end stuff is now crowdfunded.
That is the whole belief behind our enterprise tools. The next 5 years, I think think of it like, going back to the blogging analogy, you have the first 5 years dominated by Blogger and LiveJournal and weblogs. You know this space extremely well. The next 5 years, the second generation of tools
was the New York Times.
It was WordPress powering the New York Times, WordPress powering CNN.com, or Twitter. You and I and everyone else being able to write these short clips and distribute around the world instantly for free. I think that narrative arc is going to be the same for crowdfunding, in that it's seen as this toy and this tool that a young company that's just getting started might use. But honestly, like you said, it is the best way for you to launch a product in 2014. You're allowing people to gather, build a community, gather sales around a product that won't be launched for 9 months
or 2 years,
or 2 years.
And in fact, actually, who the king of this is Elon Musk. Like, we paid in full for the Roadster and waited, I think, 2 or 3 years for it. We paid in full for the Signature Series of the Model S.
Yep.
like he was able to crowdfund a lot of these products.
It is, and that's the economics. That's kind of the view on it. Is the economics make too much sense for it just to remain an independent and early adopters using it on.
So, what is the biggest example of somebody doing this now in the current era? Because I guess you have I guess Spike Lee did a film on there, and the other kid, what's his name? He did Jersey State. He did a big movie. I forgot it, but he raised $10 million. But what is the Zach Braff? Shout out Zach Braff. What is the largest company though? So you haven't seen a Nike yet, right?
Yep.
We haven't seen a McDonald's.
It's funny you mention
Nike,
that brand.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to in the next 2 years. You're going to see large brands there. So we've already powered efforts from Microsoft, Dick's Sporting Goods.
What did Microsoft do?
Microsoft did a whole high concept e-commerce store where you can buy your computer with family and friends, your back to school computer. It was like a pop-up web shop for back to school. Dick's Sporting Goods did one of the coolest crowdfunding efforts I think I've ever seen. And this was 3 or 4 months ago. For 6 weeks, they launched their own portal with our enterprise tools with Tilt Open. You can power a whole crowdfunding portal. So they had 180 campaigns.
So if I want to create a Kickstarter campaign,
if you go to sportsmatter.com and you can see this really well done crowdfunding portal that Dick's Sporting Goods launched for 6 weeks, 180 campaigns across the country, all these local sports teams and these communities across the country. And it was, if you hit these goals, if you tilt at $10,000, then Dick's Sporting Goods was going to match it. And they did the whole thing powered by us. They were able to get it up and running in 2 or 3 weeks.
So how do you guys you guys charge for the API? What? How does it work?
So we charge, if you go to the pricing on Tilt Open, you can see there's a VIP rate. It's actually pricing very much like WordPress, to where there's a free version, a standard version that you can pay 2.5%, and then VIP premium services that we offer as well.
And that is just like call us, we'll give you a price or something?
Right.
And what would that typically run, like $10K a month or $20K a month?
So you'd have to call us. It
depends on the complexity.
Right. It depends on the complexity and
how much work do you have to do, like customizing?
Yep. And just kind of lifting the hood up, we have seen, because we're the first to launch these types of tools, we've seen some pretty ambitious big things that we've had to charge quite a bit for.
Yeah.
But the benefit is you get this full function crowdfunding portal that,
it would cost literally, I would estimate. It's like when people try to rebuild MailChimp or PagerDuty or any of these other things, they do it internal. They can hack together something for 100, 200, 300 grand, but it doesn't have all the features. And then you have to maintain it, which costs another $5,000 a month. So it just becomes a disaster.
And your Nike, your core competency is making shoes. Your Microsoft, your core competency is not building crowdfunding software.
What's the most ambitious thing so far? You mentioned there was some ambitious ones.
Well, I can't release the numbers, but Lytro and a $1,200 camera. That's one of the, they launched it, and because of the tools, they were able to do this, put down a deposit, $250 deposit, then charge the rest later. Just really flexible things you can do with Enterprise Tool.
What was the new Lytro? What is that called?
That was the Illume, I think is
Illume. There it is.
So that was a really successful campaign. Navdi Soylent has been just that's taken the internet by storm just in terms of virality. The Dick's Sporting Goods thing it raised, that was about $4 million.
So what's the difference in your mind between a store and a campaign now for someone like Lytro? Is there a difference between the store and the campaign? Because the campaign ends and it becomes a store. And they're going to build the product anyway, right?
Well, it depends. I think for some of these some of these products, it is hugely beneficial for you to test the demand. I'd say one of the things that has gone unnoticed in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's subtle but insanely. If you think about it, it is radical. This consumer behavior has now evolved to where people are comfortable buying something or paying for something that won't be produced for 9 months.
Or more, yeah.
Or more. Yeah. And you have to, and for a lot of these, you have to hit a threshold for it to be produced. Think how crazy that 10 years ago, that would be that is like a true Wikipedia internet type of crazy idea, to where you just say, well, people are going to pay $199 for something that may not exist.
I was at a poker game with a number of there were 3 directors at the table. All 3 of them have either won Oscars or been nominated for Oscars and or Emmys. Like literally 3 really like true like directors that you would recognize by their names easily, and you'd be able to name multiple films. And we're at this poker game in LA, and I was talking to him about this 3 years ago, before Zach Braff and before Spike Lee, and they were not opposed to it. They initially were kind of opposed to it because they're like, well, I don't really need to do that. I can call Harvey Weinstein. I call this person. And, it's not really that much of an issue.
Right.
And I said to them, well, what if you could have that $50 million and own 100% of the rights to the picture for all time?
Right.
And just sell it on VOD, and you got 100% of the VOD and the DVDs, and it was in theaters, but you just did whatever. You get a theater company, but they would just be you would include the cost of distribution and hire a company to do it from that $50 million.
Right.
Like, would you do it then? And they're like, is that possible? I'm like, it's possible if one of you were to put your names on it.
Right.
Like, can you imagine if it wasn't George Lucas the game, but can you imagine if George Lucas, when he was in his prime, said, I have 3 ideas: the Boba Fett movie, the Han Solo movie,
right,
and this movie.
We're going to see it.
Who wants to do it?
We're going to see it in the next.
Which one do you want?
I think we're going to see it in the next 2 years, because it's with. And you see this every web phase. You see this with e-commerce, and it's like, well, what do we need to do that? We're in every Walmart around the country, and you realize, holy shit. You introduce economics in the model, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You saw this with social networking, and it's just, well, what do we need to put our brand on Twitter for? And then you realize, good God, we can get in touch with every one of our customers on a daily basis, on a minutely basis if we need to.
Yeah.
You introduce a lot of the I just ate these almonds that getting stuck in my throat.
Yeah.
You introduce just the economics and the value prop to them over time, and they see someone else do it, and it becomes overnight in their minds, like, holy shit, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
A good example is, and you're starting to see this. All right, give me a second.
Yeah, get the water here. I can filibuster. I can tell more George Lucas stories. Take a sip of the water there. Come on.
The almonds take
it's
a dirty trick to put those in the snack bowl.
Yeah, exactly. We put the smoked almonds in there so you can.
But there's a video game. So this is kind of another a canary in the mine in that there's a video game that has just passed $50 million for the video game.
No.
And it's part of this evolution of self-hosted crowdfunding campaign.
What is the video game?
It's called Star Citizen. So do Star Citizen crowdfunding.
Wow.
They host it on their own domain. And it has by far been the most successful crowdfunding campaign of all time. It is just under the radar because it's a video game, but it has 300,000 people have backed a video game that has built this massive community. I think they even have
$63 million.
$63 million.
From 661. Is this like a bunch of, what do you call it? Like
fanboys around.
Wow. That is insane.
And it's the guy who created the Wing Commander games in the 90s.
I remember Wing Commander, sure, of course.
So he comes back into the fold.
I think Mark Hamill, actually, speaking of Star Wars, Mark Hamill did the voice for Wing Commander.
Really? Well, so this great name within the video game world, this has all been in the last year. He comes back into the fold of creating video games by launching a crowdfunding campaign on his site, and this is their second effort. Their first effort was on Kickstarter, and I think they raised about $2.1 million, and now they did their second effort on their own page. They hosted it themselves, owned the entire experience. But
they didn't use Tilt. They did their own.
No, they built it all from scratch. This was before Tilt Open launched. They built it all from scratch, and in the last 14, 15 months, they've hit 60. Is it at 63 million now?
63 million.
That is 6 times bigger than the largest crowdfunding campaign on any other platform.
Yeah, the largest one right now is the cooler, right?
Right. And I think that's a canary in the mine for video games. All it's going to take is the exact same for a movie, for a politician, for a civic crowdfunding campaign. There's so many areas where the fathead of crowdfunding and the power of crowdfunding is barely even touched. And I think that's going to change in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I want to do this for HandUp because I was talking to HandUp, which I'm an investor in. And they were on the show. You can look it up when Rose Bloom was on. And I was just thinking about the homeless problem. And we had a kind of deep conversation a year after like HandUp's been around. And I was like, we're relieving suffering of homeless people. And we're trying to get them out of homelessness. But I think that the world and the people who are likely to donate, they want to end homelessness. And so the quickest route to that other people have found is to just give the homeless a home. Like, so literally in Texas, which I don't think is the most liberal town, right? They might not be the most liberal about such issues as like social welfare. Give them credit. They are just giving the homeless apartments. It's only 7,000, and they give them an apartment, and
I grew up in Texas, so
Austin or the rest of the red state?
Dallas, and then we were in Austin before moving out here.
Listen, people, good people, but it's a red state, clearly.
Yep.
So like they're not for social programs in general.
Well, it's true, and I think it's for a problem that big, it's hard to whittle it down into one solution for it. But
if you're homeless and you have a home, you don't be you that ends the homeless part of it. Doesn't end the mental illness. Doesn't end other things like having a job or being poor or being mentally ill. Any of the other factors, right? Because so poverty and homelessness is sort of like there's this massive overlap, and there's an overlay of mental illness, an overlay of drug abuse, and everything is combined. But what I was thinking was, there's only 7,000 people identified here in San Francisco. An apartment would be $1,000 a month if if it was outside the city, let's say. Like I'm not talking about a fancy apartment. I'm talking about like get off the streets apartment. But if we could find apartments like even further out of San Francisco, like say an hour east or an hour south, you might find $600 or $700, $800 ones. So let's just say it's $800 and it's 7,000 people, and we're talking. It's actually not that much money.
Right. It's actually, I mean, that you kind of nail the whole concept on the head. When you actually run the numbers on some of these programs, I mean, look at the Rockridge
$5 million
campaign.
a month. It's $5 million a month, and over 12 months, it's going to be like $67 million. Like,
and
we're spending a lot more than that on going to emergency rooms.
So my background is development economics, and my first crowdfunding platform that I built out was for microfinance, microinsurance organizations. Huge mouthful. We don't need to really go into it, but it is, in studying development economics, you see trillions of dollars spent top down, and how little of an effect that can have compared to a comparatively huge contrast of a couple billion bottom up, and how big of a difference it can make with initiatives and where the capital is as the first touch point.
How do you look at the equity stuff? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that Rockridge campaign, or the Oakland private patrol campaign, is a perfect example of when you crunch the numbers of an initiative effort, $8,200 to cut crime in half. Think how crazy that is for that neighborhood, cutting crime in half. If you see a decrease in crime of 20%
by the way,
in 10 years,
the government could never cut it in half.
If you see a decrease of crime by 20% in 10 years,
you'd be like giving them a medal.
That is like,
and hundreds of millions of dollars.
We need to ring bells and have parades. But in 24 hours, if you give someone a tool as powerful as crowdfunding.
Before we run out of time, equity. So we know that accredited investors, as I talked about on the start of the program, can invest through AngelList and other platforms. Crowdfunder, I guess, is another one that does equity, micro ventures. There's a Funders Club. There's a bunch of these platforms. Now, how do you look at equity crowdfunding? You don't have that yet. For accredited investors, and then especially when it comes to unaccredited investors investing for equity. And that's something in the Jobs Act that the SEC is actively working on, and it might happen, do you think?
Are
you monitoring it, or is that outside your scope?
We're monitoring it, but we're really focused with with a small team. We've got to be, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And the two priorities for us are the consumer app and the continued growth of that and kind of the millennial demographic, and just our current focus is around that, and these platform tools that we're releasing. That's our current focus. What's great about this open source crowdfunding tool that we released is we're seeing other people bend and flex it in really cool ways, and seeing the bleeding edge of how people are using crowdfunding.
So you're saying somebody used it for equity?
It's someone
hacked it.
I wouldn't be too surprised if you see it soon, but it's not an area of focus for us.
Got it.
And I think an interesting observation there is you look at a company like Soylent, or you look at a company like Navdi, or the example you gave about the Hollywood filmmaker. If you're able to sell $3.1 million of your product, ultimately what you would raise capital to in turn go out and sell.
Right.
And you don't have to. I mean, Soylent would have never been able to get. I love those dudes, but they would have never been able to get a loan from a bank. Getting venture capital for a nutritional drink would have been almost as impossible. they were almost because they were forced, but now they get to bask in and the fruits of their labor. They sold $3.1 million of a product that they would ultimately go to those other forms of capital to be able to do. Now they get to do that from day one. That's pretty interesting when you say, where does that relegate the other forms of capital? Do you need to sell equity when you're able to sell for that video game $50 million worth of
no,
video
those
game
guys
before?
I mean, if they raise equity, it's because they want to have liquidity, probably, right? Or they want to have more sustainability or something. But if you can't make a video game for $63 million, something's deadly wrong.
So it at least poses the interesting question: is equity crowdfunding necessary for a lot of these companies? We've had software companies raise hundreds of thousands on our tool. So it's from software to hardware to even nutritional products.
Yeah.
Is it necessary?
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Hey, James, thanks for coming on the program. Everybody follow @Tilt. Everybody follow @TWI Startups. And if you want to use the open platform, it's open.tilt.com. If you want to
download the app. Tilt in the App Store.
Just type Tilt in the App Store.
iPhones,
and go run a Tilt. And who knows? Like maybe actually, if somebody, I don't like to travel too much. I'm kind of like trying to not travel as much, but I might be open to it if somebody was.
Yeah, I know there's a startup ecosystem in Cape Town that would love.
Oh my God, you don't even know. Like I literally had. Basically, what happens is I get asked to do a lot of these things international, and I can't do them because I'm just too busy. And it literally, like going somewhere international, it might be like one speaking gig or two speaking gigs, but it actually winds up being a week of your life, and you have 52 of the year. Number of them are dedicated to my family. Anyway, so I just said, like, listen, it costs like $25,000 to bring the show somewhere, $35,000 because you got to fly out like 4 people, and we got to take a week off, which means we're going to lose ads or whatever. So there's all kinds of problems. And then like 3 people say yes, and I was like, I just.
Tell the viewers what the number would be. But it just
no, then I seem. I tell you, this is the thing.
Be.
Then I seem like I'm being, predatory. Like I don't want anybody to ever think I'm trying to make money off founders.
About 2 months ago,
this organization runs at a break even in order to support founders. That's our thing.
Well, maybe do it once a year. The first city that tilted, you do it once a year.
That's probably the best idea. Like we'll do it once a year. Whatever city tilts does it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But actually, you know what I want to do this for is probably for we're doing This Week in Startups Australia, and we did a 5-episode run with Mark Pesce, and maybe we could say, hey, to do the first season of 13 episodes, we want to hit $13,000. Let's see who can do it. Boom.
Perfect.
That'd be an easy one to do, and we can put it on our site with open.tilt.com.
About 2 months ago, the city of Richmond tilted the Foo Fighters to come to like a 1,500-person venue. It was very, very cool and rolling. In fact, Dave Grohl said, "This is the future of touring."
How much did they have to do?
It was, I think they hit $70,000, and the Foo Fighters just saw it and were like, "We're going to do it." I think they were just
like, "Yeah, we're the Foo Fighters. We don't need the money, but
right.
Whatever." All right, listen, great episode. Thank you for educating us so much. Everybody, check out Tilt.com, download the Tilt app, and thank you to our friends at WeWork for building us a great studio here. And I work here at WeWork, as you guys know, and it's a fabulous place to work. They're in New York, San Francisco, Boston, D.C., Seattle, L.A., and coming soon, Chicago, London, another office in D.C. and Israel. And hey, the TWiST list is there, but we don't like to talk about it too much. You can join the back channel, twistlist.co. And thanks so much to director Jacob and Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie for making the show awesome, and everybody else on the team, my chief of staff, Bryce, Brandon curating the events, Nathan crushing it in operations, John doing a great job with the Launch Ticker, and now the Launch Ticker Pro, $1,000 to get 150 startup profiles a year. That's expensive, but not if you're like a VC. It's like $8 each profile, so it's nothing. You could probably spend that on jet fuel in a minute. Hey, welcome to the sales team, Julian. Hey, Matt and Luke, thanks for ringing the register and keeping the wheels on the car, and follow @TWI Startups. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.